They thought he was the dream man, rich, charming, and generous. The kind of man every girl wished for. But behind that smile hid a darkness no one could see. Every gift, every promise, every drink he offered was a trap. And once you sipped, your fate was sealed. No one ever left his mansion alive. He hunted in silence, feeding his empire with blood, until one woman, Tina, refused to be bought, and her resistance unlocked a nightmare that shook everything to his core. In the city of Lagos, everyone knew Stanley Williams. To the outside world, he was the kind of man people admired. Tall, good-looking, wealthy, and generous. On Sundays, he gave huge donations to churches. At Christmas, he shared food and money with poor families. He sponsored scholarships for children and even built a small clinic for his community. People called him the cheerful giver. To them, Stanley was a saint. But behind his charming smile and fine suits lived a darkness so deep no one could ever imagine it. Stanley's wealth didn't come from real estate, oil, or business investments as people thought. His true riches came from something evil, something deadly. His empire was built on human flesh. He was a hunter. His hunting ground, social media. At night, while others laughed at skits or gossiped online, Stanley searched carefully for the next victim. He knew how to lure them. Some girls wanted iPhones, wigs, and shiny jewelry. Some wanted shopping trips, soft life, and luxury rides. Others just wanted quick money to escape poverty. Stanley knew exactly what to say and what to offer. The pattern never failed. He would charm them online, win their trust, and then invite them over for dinner at his mansion. The night always ended the same way. Expensive wine, a friendly smile, and then the drink, always poisoned. Within minutes, the victim would collapse, weak and helpless. That was when Stanley's mask fell off. He dragged their bodies into the boys' quarters behind his house. No one could hear the screams there. The walls were soundproof. With cold precision, he butchered them carefully, packing organs and flesh to ship to rich clients overseas who paid heavily for human parts. It was business, cold, ruthless, profitable, and for years, it was perfect. Then came Tina Martins. Tina was young, bright, and beautiful. A mass communication student with a sharp mind and a stubborn spirit. She caught Stanley's attention online, and he quickly decided she would be his next victim. He began the way he always did. Late-night chats, sweet words, promises of easy wealth, shopping trips, and designer gifts. But Tina was different. Raised in a strict Christian home, she knew that not everything glittering was real gold. She refused his money. She turned down his gifts, and she rejected every invitation to his house. To Stanley, this was shocking. No girl had ever refused him before. At the same time, Stanley had a major delivery due. One of his overseas clients was waiting for fresh meat. Tina was supposed to fill that order, but because she said no, his system collapsed. The clients grew restless, angry. For the first time in years, Stanley's profit machine failed. And it was all because of her. At first, he was furious, but that fury soon twisted into obsession. Tina was no longer just another girl. She was different. She had dared to reject him. Stanley swore that Tina Martins would be his, no matter how long it took, no matter the cost. This time, it was no longer about business. This was personal. Stanley Williams was furious. The failed delivery because of Tina Martins had cost him millions. His clients didn't want excuses. They wanted flesh. They wanted organs. They wanted their orders on time. That night, Stanley sat alone in his study, swallowing a glass of whiskey. The dim light flickered against his sharp features. His jaw was clenched so tightly it looked like stone. One mistake, he thought, One mistake had shaken the empire he built with blood. And one name echoed in his mind like a curse. Tina, he whispered under his breath. His voice was low, dangerous. Never again. I will never lose money because of a woman again. From that moment, everything changed. Stanley no longer chased one girl at a time. Instead, he spread his net wider. Dozens of online chats, dozens of promises, fake job offers abroad, dreams of luxury vacations, expensive shopping trips, money that could change lives overnight. He dangled these like bait, and the girls came to him willingly. Every victim was invited to his mansion. Every drink they sipped was laced with strong sedatives. Minutes later, they were unconscious, dragged into the boys' quarters, and locked away like animals. Some cried, some begged, some prayed until their lips bled. But Stanley never listened. To him, they weren't human anymore. They were stock. They were inventory. Whenever a new order came from his clients overseas, Stanley would enter the dark quarters. He would pick 2, sometimes 3 girls, depending on demand. The cries never moved him. The begging never touched him. With surgical precision, he ended their lives. Organs packed neatly into nylon bags. Flesh prepared like goose for delivery. And while Lagos celebrated him as the cheerful giver, in his mansion, Stanley was nothing but a butcher. One weekend, Stanley returned to his hometown. The people there worshipped him like a savior. He handed out bundles of cash, paid school fees, smiled warmly at the crowd. Everywhere he went, people blessed his name. That was when a pregnant woman approached him. Her name was Ngozi. Her dress was torn, her face pale with hunger. She carried the weight of her unborn child and the sorrow of 2 other children waiting at home. "Mr. Williams," she cried, her eyes wet with tears. "My husband abandoned me. I have nothing. Please, help me. My children are starving." Stanley's face softened into a mask of kindness. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice smooth and reassuring. "Ngozi," he said softly, "you will not suffer anymore. Come with me to the city. I'll give you money and find you a good job. Your children will never lack again." Hope lit up in her tired eyes. She fell to her knees, thanking him, blessing him, calling him a man sent by God. She followed him, believing her prayers had finally been answered. But when they arrived in the city, everything changed. Instead of giving her money or a job, Stanley dragged Ngozi into the boys' quarters. He tied her hands, locked the door, and left her in the dark. Her shock turned into terror. "Please," she screamed. "My children are waiting for me. I'm pregnant. I beg you." Her cries filled the room, but Stanley only gave a cold smile, shut the door, and walked away. For days, Ngozi screamed. She prayed. She begged. Her voice grew hoarse. The other captives only watched with empty eyes, souls already broken, waiting for their own turn. To them, she was just another lamb led to the slaughterhouse. While Ngozi wept in despair, Stanley was thinking about only one thing: Tina Martins, the girl who had said no, the girl who had embarrassed him, the girl who had cost him millions. In Stanley's twisted mind, Tina was no longer just another target. She was a debt, and in his world, debts had to be paid. Ngozi's screams tore through the boys' quarters like a knife. Day and night, her voice rose above the others, pleading, praying, cursing. The other captives trembled in silence, their spirits already broken, too weak to cry anymore. But for Stanley Williams, her voice was unbearable. He hated drama. He hated noise. Most of all, he hated being reminded of their humanity. One night, he walked into the dark room, his footsteps echoing like the sound of death. The women froze. Ngozi lifted her swollen face, her eyes burning with tears. "Stanley," she sobbed, her voice raw. "God will punish you. The blood of these women will rise against you. You will suffer for your sins. You will never escape." Her words were heavy, like stones thrown into his chest, but instead of fear, they fueled his cruelty. His face hardened, and with cold finality, he silenced her forever. Her last curse lingered in the air like smoke. The other captives turned pale. Now they understood. None of them would live alive. Their fates were sealed. Stanley washed his hands that night with chilling calmness. Another order fulfilled, another soul erased, and yet he dried his hands. A name rolled off his tongue like venom. Tina Martins, he whispered. You ruined one order for me, but you will be my finest delivery. I'll make you trust me. I'll make you love me. And when you finally fall, I'll watch you beg before I cut you apart, piece by piece. Then he laughed, a dark, empty laugh that echoed through his lonely mansion. Stanley picked up his phone. His voice softened, clocked in false affection. Tina, he said warmly, I've been thinking about you. I can't hide it anymore. I love you. Please, give me a chance. Let me prove it. At first, Tina resisted. She was cautious, careful, but Stanley was patient. He kept calling, kept persuading, until finally she agreed. On one condition. If you really want to see me, Tina said firmly, come to my school. Not your house, not anywhere private, just my school. Stanley smiled to himself. She was sharp, but he was sharper. Of course, he replied quickly. Anywhere you want. I just want to know you better. The next day, Stanley drove to her campus. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, stepping out of his black SUV with the confidence of a king. Students turned to look, whispering in admiration. He met Tina at a small restaurant just outside the school gates. Stanley arrived first, sitting at a corner table, sipping his drink, rehearsing his act of charm. When Tina finally walked in, his chest tightened, not with love, but with hunger. She greeted him politely and sat down. He forced a smile, complimenting her beauty. You look stunning, Tina, he said smoothly. She blushed slightly but kept her guard. They ordered food, they ate, they talked. Stanley played the role of the perfect gentleman, listening, laughing at her jokes, nodding at the right moment. But behind his smile, his mind whispered, eat, Tina. Enjoy this meal. Soon, you will be nothing more than meat for my clients. Then, as if struck by an idea, Stanley leaned closer. Tina, he said gently, if I'm really serious about you, shouldn't I know your friends, the people closest to you? Call them. Let's all meet. I want to prove to you that I am genuine. Tina hesitated. Few men ever asked to meet a girl's friends so soon. But his words sounded reasonable. Against her better judgment, she agreed. She dialed her roommates, Ada and Susan. Within an hour, they arrived, jiggling with excitement. The moment they saw Stanley, his fine clothes, his aura of wealth, they were dazzled. Stanley welcomed them warmly, insisting they order anything they wanted. They didn't hold back. Soon, the table was filled with food, laughter, and chatter. Stanley sat back, watching them like a hunter surrounded by birds. When the meal ended, he pulled out bundles of cash and handed them to Ada and Susan. Their faces lit up with delight as they accepted without hesitation. Talk to your friend, he told them with a gentle smile. Convince her to give me a chance. I promise you, I'm serious about her. The two girls nodded eagerly, already won over by his generosity. Finally, he slid an envelope of money towards Tina, but she shook her head firmly. No, thank you, she said. I don't need your money. Stanley's smile didn't falter, but instead, his obsession deepened. Her resistance was fire, and in his twisted mind, fire only made the hunt more thrilling. Tina Martins would be his. Back at the hostel that night, Tina's friends could barely contain their excitement. Girl, you're just dulling yourself, Ada said, tossing her hand back on the bed. Batman is fine, rich, and generous. How many girls get such an opportunity? You better shine your eyes, oh. Susan nodded eagerly. Her face lit up with a mischievous smile. Babes, don't waste time. Stanley is different. He's kind, handsome, and he's clearly serious about you. Look at the way he treated us today. Do you know how many girls are praying for this kind of man? Tina only sighed and shook her head. Her heart was heavy. I am not impressed by money, Ada. Not every man who flashes cash means well. I want something real, not tricks and fake promises. Her friends exchanged puzzled glances. They couldn't understand her stubbornness. Meanwhile, Stanley was relentless. Day after day, his calls flooded her phone. He sent flowers, hampers, expensive perfumes, even envelopes stuffed with money. But with every refusal, her friends pressed harder. Babes, stop being difficult, Susan whispered one night. This guy truly loves you. At least give him a chance. Their words echoed in Tina's mind, and coupled with Stanley's sweet voice and endless affection, her resolve began to weaken. Finally, after much persuasion, Tina agreed to visit him at his house. Stanley could hardly believe his luck. At last, his patience was about to pay off. They fixed a date. On that date, Tina dressed simply but elegantly, her natural beauty glowing. She made her way to the bus station, her small bag slung across her shoulder. Stanley had insisted she wouldn't worry about directions. He would pick her up personally. At the bus stop, Tina pulled out her phone and dialed his number. He answered immediately, his deep voice dripping with excitement. But before she could speak, another call came through. Her friend's voice was urgent, almost panicked. Tina, where are you? There is a surprise quiz in 30 minutes. The lecturer is already in the class. If you miss it, you'll fail the course. Tina froze. The timing couldn't have been worse. She looked at the line of buses waiting, then back at her phone. Duty called. With no hesitation, she boarded the next bus back to campus. Meanwhile, Stanley was speeding towards the bus station in his SUV, a smile curling on his lips. In his mind, Tina was already chained in his boys' quarters, begging for mercy. Then his phone rang again. My love, where are you? He asked smoothly. Her reply shattered his mood. Stanley, I'm sorry. I just got an urgent call. There's a quiz. I need to go back now. Please don't bother coming. For a moment, Stanley's face darkened with pure rage. He gripped the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles turned white. This girl keeps spoiling my plans. But his voice was calm when he answered. It's okay, my dear. Go and write your quiz. We'll see another time. He ended the call with a fake smile, but instead, his blood boiled. In his mind, he saw again Tina chained, crying, begging for her life as he carved her parts. Now, for the second time, fate has mocked him. Fine, he muttered through clenched teeth. You escaped again. But the day I catch you, I'll make sure your death is slow, excruciating. After the quiz, Tina called him back. Her voice was soft, apologetic. Stanley, I'm sorry for today. We can meet tomorrow instead. His anger melted onto obsession. His lips curled into a twisted smile. Of course, my love, he whispered. Tomorrow you will be mine at last. The next morning, Tina set out again, her heart uncertain but steady. She boarded a bus and arrived at the station. This time, Stanley was already waiting. His black SUV glistened under the morning sun like a predator lying in wait. He stepped out, his smile smooth, his posture relaxed, too relaxed, almost rehearsed. Good morning, my queen, he said warmly, opening the door for her. Tina forced a polite smile as she entered the car. The bride was quiet. Stanley asked questions about her school, her dreams, even her favorite food. But Tina noticed the way his eyes lingered too long on her face, then drifted down to her neck, her hands, her body. He wasn't listening. He was studying, measuring, weighing. Soon, the SUV rolled onto his mansion, a massive estate that looked less like a home and more like a fortress. Tina's lips parted slightly. Your house. It's like a palace. Stanley's smirk was quick, sharp. Everything here could be yours, Tina. If only you let me love you. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He frowned, answered quickly, then his entire mood shifted. A client, a delivery, a huge sum on the line. He couldn't ignore it. Grinding his teeth, he forced a smile. My love, something urgent just came up. I need to travel tonight. Make yourself at home. I'll be back tomorrow morning. The house is yours. Tina nodded, but inside, her stomach knocked. Stanley left in a rush. As the sound of his SUV faded into the distance, Tina was swallowed by silence. She wandered the mansion, trying to calm her nerves. Every corner screamed wealth, golden curtains, marble floors, polished chandeliers, but beneath the beauty was something cold, unnatural. The air was too still, the silence too thick. Then she heard it. At first, just a faint murmur, like wind slipping through cracks. But then it grew sharper, a whimper, a cry. Tina froze, her paws raised. The sound pulled her outside, towards the boys' quarters. The closer she moved, the more the air stank, metallic, rotten, heavy. Her chest tightened as bile rose in her throat. Finally, she stood before the small iron door. It was locked, but the muffled cries were clear now. Her hands trembled. Fear screamed at her to run, to leave the house and never look back. But another voice inside her whispered louder, "If you walk away, they will die here." She looked around, found a rusted metal pipe, and jammed it into the padlock. Bang, bang, bang. On the fourth stripe, the lock snapped. The door creaked open. Tina's breath caught. The smell hit her first, rot and blood, so thick it clogged her throat. She stumbled back, covering her nose. Inside, shadows crouched in every corner. Blood-stained knives glimmered under a dim bowl. Plastic bags filled with human remains lay stacked against the wall like groceries. And then she saw them, women, some tied, some slumped against the walls, their bodies bruised, their eyes hollow. One woman, her belly swollen with pregnancy, lifted her battered face and cried, "Please, help us." Tina's knives weakened. For a moment, she nearly fainted, but then something inside her snapped. Fear gave way to courage. She rushed forward, untying their ropes. Hands clung to her, trembling, desperate. Their sobs filled the room, their voices stumbling over one another as they spoke of Stanley's cruelty, his killings, his endless hunger for blood. Tears blurred Tina's eyes as she fumbled for her phone. Her fingers shook as she dialed the police. "Please, come quickly," she whispered, her voice breaking. I found women. He keeps them here. Please hurry." Minutes later, sirens pierced the night. Police vans screamed into the compound. Armed officers swarmed the quarters, lifting the freed women gently, wrapping them in blankets. One of the women clung to Tina, her tears soaking Tina's blouse. "You saved us. God will bless you." Tina's heart ached. She wanted to believe it was over. But then, the police commander pulled her aside. His face was stern, his voice low. "You have done more than anyone expected. But we need one last thing from you. If Stanley comes back, he must confess in your presence. That will seal the case in court. Without it, he may still walk free. Can you handle this?" Tina froze. Fear gripped her chest. Stanley's face flashed in her mind, the hungry eyes, the smooth lies, the hidden monster. But then she looked back at the women being carried into the police van, their broken bodies, their haunted faces. She wiped their tears, lifted her chin and nodded. "I'll do it. He must pay. I won't let him escape." The mansion fell silent again. The trap was set. The next morning, the mansion was still quiet. Police officers hid in corners and shadows, their guns ready, their breaths steady. Every creak of the house echoed like thunder in Tina's eyes. She sat safely on the couch, palms damp, her heart thudding so loudly she feared it would give her away. Every tick of the wall clock daggered like ours. Then at last, the sound came. Tires crunching gravel, an engine humming. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. Stanley Williams had returned. The door flung open, and he swaggered in with that same confident smirk, his cologne thick in the air, his eyes glowing with hunger. "My queen," he drawled, spreading his arms. "Did you miss me?" Tina forced a shaky smile, though her stomach turned. "You came back sooner than I thought." Stanley dropped his keys carelessly on the glass table, poured himself a drink, and leaned closer to her. His mouth stretched wide, but it was human. It was hunger, madness, obsession. "You don't know how long I've waited for this moment," he whispered. "Finally, you are in my house. Finally, you'll be mine, just like the others." Tina's throat thickened, but she steadied her voice. "The others?" she asked, almost in a laugh. His chuckle was cold, hollow, dripping with pride. "Don't play innocent, Tina. You think you are special. You are not. I've made fortunes from women like you. Their flesh, their blood, it all pays my bills. You ruined my plans, but tonight, you'll beg before I end you." He leaned back smugly, sipping his drink. And that was the moment the shadows moved. "End of the road, Stanley," a commanding officer thundered. Police officers stormed the room, guns raised. Stanley froze for a split second. Then his face twisted in rage. In a blur, he lunged towards Tina, gripping her wrist like iron. "You betrayed me," he roared, spittle flying from his lips. "If I go down, I'll take you with me." But the officers were quicker. Shots crackled in the air. In seconds, Stanley was wrestled to the ground, his arms wrenched behind his back. Handcuffs snapped shut. Pinned, he thrashed and cursed, his eyes burning with venom as he glared at Tina. "I should have cut you into pieces. You'll regret this. Even in hell, I will haunt you." Tina, her chest heaving, finally let the tears spill down her cheeks. But her voice was steady, her courage unbroken. "No, Stanley. The only thing you'll carry into hell is the blood of every woman you destroyed." News of his arrest exploded like wildfire. The nation trembled as secrets spilled out. The media named him the organ hunter. Supervisors testified with voices, shaking but strong, recounting the horrors they had endured in his house of death. Photos of boys' quarters, the blood-stained tools, the stacked body parts, all were presented in chilling detail. In the center of it all stood Tina Matters, not as a victim, but as a voice of courage. Stanley remained defiant, sneering in the courtroom. He boasted about his wealth, his powerful clients, even mocking the police for catching him. But every arrogant word only drove another nail into his coffin. The gavel fell, and the judge's voice thundered. "Stanley Williams, you are hereby sentenced to death for murder, human trafficking, and crimes against humanity." Gas rippled through the courtroom. Stanley's smirk finally faltered. Tina closed her eyes and whispered a silent prayer. Justice had prevailed. The mansion was torn down, brick by brick. Its walls of horror reduced to rubble. His empire collapsed. His wealth seized. His name erased from honor and rewritten as a curse. The women who survived were taken to shelters, their bodies healed, their voices rising again as testimonies of survival and strength. And Tina returned to her quiet life, her faith stronger, her spirit unbroken. She knew now, more than ever, that evil could hide behind handsome smiles, sweet promises, and flashing wealth. But no matter how polished the disguise, evil was still evil. The lesson was clear. Not everything that glitters is gold. Not every gift is a blessing. And sometimes, the sweetest voice can lead you straight into the jaws of death. But with courage and truth, even the darkest evil crumbles. Thank you so much for watching this story. Your time, your likes, your comments, and your shares mean the world to me. Every bit of support you give keeps me motivated to bring you more powerful and chilling stories like this one. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss the next story. Until next time, stay safe, stay wise, and remember, evil hides in plain sight, but truth always wins. Much love to you all. Bye!